Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law, My FM 101.3 in the Holliston Hub, HCAT. It is Saturday morning as you were listening.
It is
to
right
this.
now. It is. Yes,
Saturday
it is.
morning, and you are being entertained today by your host, Jay Marsden. He is from the Marsden Law Group, and your co-host, that's me, John Drouin. I'm from
Yes.
Main Effort Financial, and we're also joined by Tom Harmon from the Holliston Hub. He is the executive producer
Tommy
of
on the
award-winning.
bag, yes.
Let me just emphasize that
Go ahead.
award-winning Money in the Law. And I'm not sure what the exact award is. We've covered this, but
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
there's-
There's like a whole closet full of them, and every once
now
in a while.
one of us may be sitting on the Holliston Hub board right now. One of us
So,
may be.
conflict of
And
interest,
so
I'll take that
if
award.
There's not a conflict of interest at all. But what I do know is I'm familiar with all the programming.
There you go.
Right?
Nice.
So I'm like, yep, those are good shows. Those are good shows.
Those are okay. Those are good.
And one of the things that's happening on Holliston Hub is we're opening up a sponsorship program. So
Yeah.
actually, I'll let.
Like
So you
money
have.
sound in the background there.
And for all the right reasons.
Yeah,
So
sure.
just to give a little pitch to the Holliston Hub. So the Holliston Hub HCAT is formerly known as HCAT or Holliston Cable Access TV. The reason that we are opening up a sponsorship program in order to enable people or businesses or things to sponsor shows is because we need the money. Like there's the way that cable access,
Sure, the funding and all that stuff.
and with kind of like the decline in subscription to cable TV, because that's
Sure.
where, and again, for all the streaming and like the advancement of technology, this is what happens. So in order to maintain the extremely
High
high
quality.
level and quality of programming that we do, not only on TV but also on multimedia sources, this is the plan moving forward, and in a very kind of NPR-ish kind of thing. So this
Very good.
this
Tote
program
bag.
is
I hear a
sponsored.
tote bag coming.
Oh, you're gonna. You know what I hear? I hear like a marathon fundraiser where you
Yep.
bring in people.
Ooh.
Yep, and
Me and you
on
with these
TV.
microphones for 24 hours.
On
Remember-
TV. Down
Remember
in
Jerry, Jerry Lewis used to do it at the end of the
Yes.
24, and he's like
Yes.
running out of gas. He's been up for 24 hours.
Running out of gas,
He's
nothing.
in a tuxedo. He's got a smoke
He's
hanging
at
out of his mouth.
14
right?
Manhattans,
Yeah,
right?
He's deep into it, right?
Yeah.
You can hear the ice clinking,
Yeah.
and he's like the last final, like running around with the hat and collecting all the money.
I imagine that we could probably put something together that would be extraordinarily entertaining.
Oh
Tom,
man, oh man.
Yeah, I mean,
the Holliston Hub Radio Fund.
the radio. Yeah, I mean, we do it. We're there, and we do it at the station. Maybe we remote this down to the station.
yes.
And
then we
put
just-
put it on live Facebook.
And
right?
then we just do a series of visitors and
People come
just
rolling in to see us.
all day for 24 hours
Yep,
straight.
and you and I stay up for 24
Yes.
hours straight.
Yeah, I love it.
There you go.
There you go.
That's it. There's your. There,
Tom's writing it
you know
down
what?
right now.
You know what? Holliston Hub. We are going to provide again. Money in the Law again is going to provide
do
you
our
that
best.
service.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best to see if we can make you. So, but one of the things would be people be able to sponsor shows. So they were saying. They were asking me, they say, do you think that anyone is going to want to sponsor your show? And I said, well, obviously.
I can think of two guys.
Obviously, Main Effort Financial is going to sponsor the show. And I know Main Effort Financial, there's going to be one other one that says, there is no way that I am not sponsoring that show. So we may have a couple of sponsors. I'm going to ask some of the other financial planners and maybe lawyers in town if they want
Hey,
want to
settle
sponsor.
settle down.
Hey, guys, you want to sponsor a show that you're not on? No.
That we'll never talk about you on? How about that? Let's do that.
Or we
I
will
will talk about you. You might not want that.
Or we will talk about you. No, we would never do that. All right, so just a reminder, Money in the Law, we talk about anything that has to do with legal matters, particularly
all
estate
things
planning.
money, all things law.
And we also talk about financial things that are interesting or not
Yes.
interesting about finance. But we cover them, and we make them sound good, and we make them sound interesting. So, maybe when you listen to a show, you come away with something. You come away with a little nugget of information that may help you down the road. And again, at the end of the day, all we do, our job is to make people happy.
That's it.
Right?
That's
so if
our purpose
something
on
that
this
you
earth. It's our
learn,
purpose on this earth.
right on the show makes you just a little bit happier, just brightens your day, or gives you a little hope, or puts a little pep in your step, then our work here is done.
I was in a meeting yesterday, and somebody said to me, I framed the question about, I said, look, if I was in a barbecue and somebody came up to me and asked me this question, I said, which happens all the time, and they went, no, that doesn't happen all the time. I said, oh, it happens.
Oh, yes, it
all
does. You're a lawyer.
the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
It doesn't happen like initially. It's like that second round, right? Hey, Jay, can I get you another? What are you drinking? Yeah, and yeah, sure. And
Comfort levels established. So what do you do for a living?
right?
Oh, a lawyer. Oh, quick question. I'm grabbing another bag. I got a question. Let me give you a beer. I have a question for you, right? They lure you in with the beer. Right? They get that's how they get you to stay in the spot.
They don't
right?
lure you in. Nothing.
Well,
There's no luring.
It opens the door. It opens the door. I got you a beer, so now you can be able to answer my question for free. That's how it works.
Little
right?
do they know that you've already opened this door in your mind by standing there and saying, "I'm a lawyer and I like beer," and they're like, "Whoa, let's see."
I was worried you were going to walk away. Oh, don't worry. We're going to be here for a while. Plenty of time for questions, as they say. Plenty of time for questions.
Plenty of time for the floor will be open.
And by the way, and the answers get really interesting the longer we're here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. They really get much better.
They become little stories and everything.
Yes,
so
that's right.
And
They become a little more theatrical as the day goes on.
That's the way Money in the Law rolls, and we've
Yes,
been doing
it
it
does.
now for north of 11 years,
Yes,
or in our
yes.
12 years, so 11
Yeah,
years
we're there,
plus.
yeah.
This is what we do. So again, and just when we always forget about this. So moneyinthelaw.net. It's a website. It's there.
It's real.
It's
It's
real.
real.
There may be some dated pictures on there, but
It's on the internet.
Yeah,
It's on the internet. You know it's real.
If it's on the internet, it's real. So if you have any questions you want to run in, you want to reach out and connect with us, go to moneyinthelaw.net. I don't know if we have our theme song planned. I mean, there's some copyright
That's
thing
an
on there,
issue
but
there.
we
But
can
send us some questions. Text us your questions.
Absolutely.
We'll answer them on the. We'll do our best to keep your confidentiality to some degree, depending on how well we know you.
depending on
right.
how well or how not well we know you.
Depending on how embarrassing the question is. That's exactly right.
And there's no such thing as a bad question. However, we know that there is. Yeah,
Yes,
there
there
are
is.
dumb questions.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
All right. So what's new with you? What's new like in the Marsden world?
What's going on? Nothing busy. We're busy. A lot going on over at the office. We're getting to the time of the year where things get a little bit slower. People kind of move on to some, things aren't a priority anymore.
Yep.
Go down the Cape with a vacation for the kids, spend all that money on estate plan. There's that dilemma that goes on right now.
They juggle that all the time.
Yes, they
right?
do.
Like,
That's right. That's usually
torn.
so. There's a lot of that going on right now. But no, we're busy. We're busy. Everybody's good. Everybody's good. How about you?
We're good. We're good. Same thing. It's we've got 2 of the 3 home, right?
Yep.
So at the house we got to the guys are back. Like school's over for
Yep.
the year, so we're kind of back in the mode of
Family mode.
Everybody,
A little different.
It's a little different because everybody's working. So
Yep.
there's that, and unfortunately in our case we're and I say this like kind of tongue. We're short a car,
Yep.
right? There's one. So because Chloe and Phoebe, they work different shifts. Like Phoebe works during the day, Chloe works at night, right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
so it's kind of sometimes the car handoff is we can do it. Sometimes we can't. So yesterday or 2 days ago I get I need a car tomorrow. I'm
Yeah.
not going to mention which one. It was one of the I need a car tomorrow, and I'm like, okay, let me see how I can work. So anyway, the long story short is yesterday I'm like, well, I live like 5 minutes. I live like literally like a mile and a half away
Yeah,
from the
too
office.
far, right.
So for the first time ever, I rode my bike to work.
Wow.
Yep. I was
There you
the
go.
bike to work guy, right? I was that guy, right?
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, and it's easy because I go right down the rail trail, so
Yep.
I don't have to deal with the streets or anything. So I go down the rail trail, and for those of you who have never been on the rail trail, that rail trail runs right through Milford, Massachusetts as
Yep.
well, and Holliston and Sherburne. I mean, it is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like it is, and if you've never done it, and Holliston's trying to sell it. Like they're trying to be like, hey, this is like a cool thing, and they're not messing around. Like
Yeah.
it's really, really cool. So
Yeah.
I got to ride. I'm riding my bike down, and I'm like that guy. Right? I'm riding my bike down the rail trail. Right? I got my backpack on. I come in the office, and all the people that work in the building, they're like, did you just ride your bike to work? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, you're so physically fit. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
No, I'm down a car.
Yeah, I'm down a car. I just rode on this really flat surface, and I rode for
And I need a nap.
I rode for 8 minutes, and I'm sweaty, right? And I'm sweaty, and it's a good thing I have my water bottle. I'm like chugging water. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
So when we used to live in the city, I would ride my bike to work every day.
Every day.
Every day. I rode my bike to work. I rode my bike to
Like
school.
suited up.
Oh yeah.
Suited
yeah.
up. Like,
yeah.
so were you the guy who, like, did you have to tuck your socks, your
No, I had
pants and your
I had
socks?
straps. I still have them on my back.
Yeah.
Straps around the ankle. Straps around the ankle to keep the cuffs away from the chain.
Yep.
So I don't wreck the clothes. And then backpack, right, a messenger bag, basically around my shoulders.
I would so make fun of you.
Baseball hat
All
on.
the time.
No, I'm sorry, the helmet.
I was gonna say,
always wore a helmet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did it all year long. Like the weather.
winter?
Weather was the only time I didn't do it if it was snowing.
Yep.
Or if it was raining. If it was raining out, you just get
Yeah,
filthy. You just get disgusting. But if it was cold, was never an issue. And I used to ride my bike back and forth. We lived in Charlestown. I used to ride my bike to the financial district. I used to ride my bike to the seaport. I used to ride my bike. I was taking classes at BU. I used to ride my bike up to BU, and then back and forth to law school.
How long a ride to the financial district from Charlestown?
20 minutes, maybe.
20
tops.
minutes.
Not that long.
So
I mean, right over the bridge, right over the North
are
Washington
you
Street
sweaty
Bridge.
when you get there?
I mean, you're not sweaty while you're doing it. Then when you get off, you definitely
heat up?
You're a little heated up in the elevator. But there were, like in the wintertime, I would wear this thing called a head sock, and it would go over my entire my entire helmet to keep me warm. So there were a lot of times where, and I had a goatee at the time, so I had goatee and I had my sunglasses on. So there were times where I would come into the building and I would step into the elevator. I would be in
Four
the
guys
elevator.
have you face down?
I would be in the elevator with all my contemporaries from Fidelity, and not one
No one knew
person
who you were.
would know who I was. I'm just standing there with the shades on in the back of the, and they all think I'm dropping off like documents, right? That's what it
Sure,
looked like.
you're a delivery guy.
A delivery
Yeah,
guy, right?
yeah.
And then the door would open, and I'd step out on the floor, and I'd be rolling in, and I'd be rolling in behind these guys, and they'd turn around and give me the, "Can I help you?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm going to work, dummy. It's me."
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, my, they didn't recognize you in the elevator."
It's
right?
you. You're not the Unabomber.
That's right.
Great.
That's right. But I'll tell you, I did it for almost the whole time I was living in town, working. There's no better way to get around. There is no better way. And I've done it here. I've used my bike, take it over, right, zip over 16, down the rail trail to the office. I love it. If you have nothing planned and you're not going anywhere, you don't need to kind of be suited up. It's not a bad way to go. It's a great form of exercise, and it's but it takes a little bit of time.
And it's not super demanding, right? Well, you're a little bit further down. Yeah, you're.
I get a little more of a ride, but it's still worth it.
And it's flat.
What happens is you have a whole day and you're thinking this is going to be great, and then at the end of the day you're kind of bummed out. You're like, I got to wrap it up. I got to go home. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And you reach for your keys and you walk out to get in the car, and the car is nowhere to be found, and you say to yourself, "Oh, I forgot. I got to ride home.
My bike home.
Damn.
It's getting dark.
Yep.
I left the office and it's starting to get dark, and I'm
Yep.
like, and it's funny. So I'm getting, and same thing. Because again, this is like my first time doing it. I've totally forgot. I totally forgot.
Yep.
And Haley texts me. She goes, "Hey, have a safe ride home." And I'm like, "Why is she?" Oh,
I had a red flashing light that I would attach to the back of my backpack. Of
course.
I mean, it was, and
Safety
I rode.
first.
It was all night. Like I'd get out of school at midnight
and be rolling on your bike.
Walk downstairs at the law school. I'd unchain my bike and up the driveway I went, and then right through downtown Boston. But I had a good friend from law school, the great Dan Igo, one of the smartest kids I went to law school with, and he lived in Somerville, and so we'd be studying, and then after studying, we may have gone out for a post-study
Sometimes
beverage.
you gotta do.
Yeah, just kind of stress
Yep.
stress relief. And then at the end of the night, he'd say to me, "You want to ride home?" And I'd say, "I'll take a ride home." And he had this old convertible Mercedes, and the top would go down, and the bike would go in the back seat, and then he'd give me a ride home and drop me off. And my wife could hear us out front, blah, 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 solving all the world's problems, and then I just throw it in the shed. But I tell you, it's once you start doing
I do.
there's no once you get used to it, there's no better way to go.
All right,
there's no
all
better
right,
way to
all
go.
right.
So
Yeah,
for those of you who are thinking about it, it's easy. It's worth it.
I mean, if you're thinking about it in Holliston or Milford, it's really
Oh, it's super easy. It's a great ride. It's a great ride.
It is a great ride, and there's really not a lot of traffic.
Yeah, and it's great. I should now you get me motivated. I'm going to start doing it again.
All right, maybe I'll see you out there. That was the other thing. I saw my in-laws out there.
You see people out there, they look at you like you're weird. You're like, what is this guy doing?
I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing here? We're out walking. We're getting ready for our trip.
All right, now I'm motivated. I might get back to it.
All right.
All right. So what are we talking about? Oh, take a quick break. We'll come back and I'll tell you what we're talking about.
We'll take a quick break, and then we'll talk about bike riding and saving the world, and like lessening your carbon footprint, and anything else we need to talk about. And,
all right.
and
Insurance. Talk about insurance.
We need to
wear a helmet. Wear a helmet.
Yeah, we'll talk about insurance. All right, don't go away.
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden riding in here on his bike to settle down and talk to my good friend John Drohan from Main Effort
Financial.
Financial.
That was the whole thing today. So we were talking about the bikes, right? Yeah. And I was gonna like ride my, because I'm like, I had a good time riding my bike, and then I'm like, well, I can't today because I got to go to Money in the Law. So theoretically, I could have ridden my bike here.
Yep.
I mean, I can't even get here on time when I'm.
Well, no, that doesn't work. I mean, there's a like I was using it as a commuting vehicle. Like it was.
Yeah, that was your primary means
right,
of.
That's right. It was either the Orange Line, the bus, walking, or the bike. Right.
Yeah.
Those are my options. Right. I wasn't driving anywhere, and it's legit destination stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And I had the high end lock and all that stuff. But it was piece of cake. It was fantastic. And you don't even realize it, and all of a sudden you're like, wow. That's a pretty good workout. Feel all right. You feel all right. So.
I mean, I'm the only. and again, now as a middle-aged man, I don't really worry about it so much. I don't care like if I'm sweaty or not. Right?
Oh, no,
but
no.
but back if I was in like my late 20s,
yeah.
I'd care. I'd be like, am I too sweaty? Am I too gross?
Oh, I used to have meetings.
You don't care. Do you care? Tom says he does.
I used to have meetings. We'd have meetings uptown. Fidelity would say, I need you to go up to the office on top of Wilson Street. And I'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem. I get downstairs, jump my bike, whoosh, spin across town, roll in. Everybody like, I just took a cab. How'd you get here? Oh, my bike's outside. People are like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, what is your story? I'm like, there's no better way to get around. It was a breeze. I loved it.
All right.
Through the Public Garden, through the Boston Common. It was fantastic. It was a great, great way to go. Now, at the end of the night with a couple of cocktails in you, that's a bit of a different animal. That's a bit of
That's
a
a different
animal.
ride.
It's a different ride. That's a different ride. That's a longer ride, but whatever. It's all good. It's
All right.
good.
So what do you want to cover today?
So I'm talking about today. So this has come up a lot in the office over the last couple of weeks. We've talked about how we kind of try to apply some things that we see real time, real life to some of the things we talk about here on the show. You guys always refer to it as making sure that sort of your money has a purpose, right? We talk about it as making sure that your plan has a purpose. And when I say your plan has a purpose, we try to clarify for people that when you come into the office to have us do planning for you, we try to remind people, look, your plan is made up of lots of different parts that in many cases have their own potential glide path, right?
Yep.
And so when I say that, what I mean is, people will come in and say, look, here's how I want my estate broken up, right? I want my estate broken up and I have 3 kids and I want one kid to get 50% and I want the other 2 kids to split 25 and 25 for a whole host of reasons, right? They've
I don't like him as much as the other kids.
I don't love them as much. They're not as nice to me at Father's Day, whatever it is. And it's usually something because they've done something else, right? These kids went to a different school. I paid more money for their tuition. I helped them buy a house. I put money away for their kid.
Sure.
I've helped everybody out, and I'm just trying to level the playing field. And so when you're talking about that, the key component around that is you then need to be very conscious about how you have set up certain aspects of your estate plan, specifically things that come with a named beneficiary.
Yep.
Right? So people will come in all the time and they'll say, look, this is what I want my estate to look like. And we'll look at their estate and we'll say, well, look, all of your wealth, for the most part, the bulk of your wealth is tied up in retirement accounts, life insurance, and annuities. So the key that we want people to take away is mostly annuities for a whole host of reasons. Your estate plan is not, your will and your trust do not apply to those things, all right? They could, but more often than not, they don't. Meaning, whoever the named beneficiary of your 401k is, that's who gets the 401k,
Yep.
right? So if you want your kids to inherit your money through your estate plan, 50%, 25%, 25%, you need to carry over that wish or those intentions to those like named accounts, 401ks, IRAs, SEP IRAs, annuities. You gotta line those things up, because if you don't line them up, the beneficiary designation on retirement accounts and annuities and insurance trumps whatever your estate plan says, because those are going to go how they're titled, not according to your will.
That's one of the nice things about them, right? One of the benefits of these named beneficiary items that you described is your will doesn't apply to them, because they're and will equals probate, right? That's what probate is, right? So they don't go through probate.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
So that's good, right? That's a good thing most of the time, right?
Yep.
That
Most cases,
it doesn't go through probate, so there's no lag, there's no time lag in being able to distribute those funds, right?
Yeah, it's how fast can you get the paperwork done?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So and another important thing to think about too, and this is a great point, is when you're talking about, okay, well, when you do, we say the same thing. What do you want to see when all the dust settles? Like, what's your picture? What's your vision of this? And if your vision is, well, my son Tom, he's he was in the Peace Corps for 10 years. He's a social worker, and he went to, he paid for college himself.
Right.
And then my other 2, my son Jay and his brother Jeff, the twins, right? Those guys Both of those guys started that company. They sold it. Both of those guys, they don't need my money.
They're well off.
They're well off, and they know they're well. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like they're not resentful or anything. So you know, in that particular example, we want to leave Tom more money because, and we're not picking on you, Tom. It's because you're a bleeding
pretty
heart.
well off.
Yeah, I mean he's a better golfer than those two. That's
He's the ball off the golf course. Yes.
So we want to leave him more money. But remember, when you talk about that stuff, like they're different, right?
Right.
You know, and you have to make sure that you're talking about an apple and an orange. You know, you're comparing an apple to an apple, not an apple to an orange. So
Well, and you got to remember who you're having the conversation with, right? Because I mean, you filled out, I don't know, 1 million beneficiary
1 million.
designation forms, right?
Million.
Even, right?
Yeah.
Right, not one, right on the number, right on the money.
right, you're pretty close.
But when you walk into the office, you know, somebody comes in and says, "Well, I need to add some beneficiary information to my account," and you go, "Okay, great. How many kids you got?" Great. I mean, there's a default, right? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. You know, there's a default that usually says, "I want my spouse to get everything if I'm not around, and then I want my kids to get it." And it's usually the default would be, "Well, you want them to get it equally, right?"
Yep.
And there that discussion may not happen for a whole host of reasons. And one of the discussions might be, well, I've already talked with my estate planning attorney how I want my estate distributed. So I've already done that work with the estate planning attorney. Oh, okay, great. And then you fill out the paperwork for the beneficiary designations thinking that the two are matched up, and they're not. They're on two separate, parallel but separate paths. And it's important to understand that. We say this a lot to people, and people struggle to kind of wrap their head around it because they think, because my industry does this, they think that the estate plan is the end all be all, and it's not necessarily. It has to work.
I did a will, right?
That's
I did a will,
Yep.
and the will, everything gets left equally to all the kids, and that's the way it works, right?
Yep.
But you may, like we said, you may not want that to happen. But the other thing is, we talk about the different types of assets, right? So
Yeah.
on the one hand, if you say, well, I'm going to leave my one son, I'm going to leave him my 401k. He's going to get my retirement plan. I'm going to leave my other son the house, right?
Right.
Retirement plan is worth $1 million. The house is worth $1 million. Two different things, though, right?
Yep.
Two different things with two different, like, theoretical financial values, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
think about it, right? So, I mean, if I inherit a house, right? I inherit a house. My basis gets stepped up, right?
Yep.
So if I inherit that house based on, and again, now let's go back to the named beneficiary and the non-named beneficiary, right? So in the will, right?
Yep.
In the will, I inherit the house. So let's say I'm your son, Dad. You're the best. So me and Tom are your sons, right?
Yep.
I inherit the house. You give Tom your $1 million 401k. You're like, easy peasy, right?
be all
We
set.
just had the house like, you know, we got an appraisal, $1 million bucks. I get that house. I inherit that house. It's $1 million step up. So right now you essentially have just handed me $1 million.
At my death, you
Yep.
get an asset worth $1 million, and if you sell it shortly thereafter, because of the step up in basis, 0 taxes.
Yeah, so it is a tax-free.
It's a free $1 million.
It's $1 million.
Yeah.
It is $1
Yep.
million, and like you said, if I hand the deed to the realtor and say, "Could you please sell this house?" Like, you bet I will.
Yes, I will. Yep.
And I get $1 million. Now Tom on the other end, he's like, "Hey, I have $1 million.
I get Dad's IRA.
Beneficiary IRA."
He
right?
loved us both equally.
I get it. And you know what? How long Dad saved for all these years, putting money away, working hard, like banging money away into his 401k while he was taking care of us. What a guy. That was great. And it's now, and of course, because it rolls over, it's in a beneficiary IRA,
Yes,
right?
of course it
so
is.
he
He's
gets
got
it,
$1
and
million.
he has $1 million. However, what's the difference?
Well, let's see. Uncle Sam has way more interest in Tom than he does with you. And that's not
Exactly.
because of his prowess on the golf course. They have way more interest in Tom because they have their hand out every time Tom goes into the kitty to pull out some dough.
Exactly, because remember, and again, for all the, and let's not beat up Uncle Sam too much. So the money that bought this house, right?
Correct.
The money that bought the house, that was after
After-tax
tax
money.
You paid taxes on
Yep,
that money,
yep.
right? Now, the money that you put in the 401k, you did not pay taxes
No,
on it.
no,
That was
no,
the
no.
reason.
For
That
the
was
most part, yep.
That was the benefit of
Yep,
it, right?
yep.
Hey, listen, you know what? If I don't pay taxes, and all the money that accumulated in that is that's after that
Yep.
is that has not been taxed either. together. So Uncle Sam wants to, he needs to get paid, right? He needs to get paid in order to have all the great stuff that we have here in this wonderful country.
America costs money.
But that's a great line. Write that one down. That's going to be the name of the show. He needs to get paid. However, but you're like, well, wait a minute. You bought that house for $100,000 and now it's worth $1 million. That's a $900,000 increase in value.
It is.
And you're like, yes, but by the way Uncle Sam's laws are written and the way the inheritance works is that step up in basis, that's real.
Oh,
that's
it's a gift. It's a gift that keeps
real,
on giving.
That's a real thing. And again, provided that, we're not talking about any estate tax or anything that's applicable to that, but they're two different animals. It's an apple and an orange. So back to the original point of if I want to distribute when I'm thinking about my estate plan and what I want to see when all the dust settles, I have to make sure that I'm comparing an apple to an apple.
Correct.
I have to make sure that
Well, yeah, because if Tom says, look, I want to be in the same position John's in. I want to be liquid to $1 million because he sold the house and he's got $1 million in his checking account, and I don't want this money in the IRA. I want $1 million in my account. You liquidate the account, bingo. Uncle Sam says, well, we'll take $250, first of all, maybe more, and then the state's going to want their money too. So leaving $1 million IRA and $1 million piece of real estate is not leaving each person $1 million. You're leaving one person $1 million. You could be leaving somebody else $600,000. It could be a $400,000 hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A $400,000 hit. And oh, by the way, when I inherit that money, right? When I inherit that money, and let's say I take $100,000 out, that's increasing my own tax. That comes as income. And oh, by the way, the other thing is the new rule. I got to take it out in 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, I got 10 years to do this. Meanwhile, Jeff over there, he's living in his house, and he can live in that house for the rest of his life.
Or the $1 million is sitting in a portfolio somewhere, generating $50,000 a year for him, right? Just putting that in his pocket, right? He's paying taxes on the 50, but the hundo is like that's found money. That's found money, right?
That's hundo times 1,000.
So yeah, that's right. The Millo. Yeah, that's it. So now there may be very real reasons why doing it this way makes sense, right? So for example, in some cases, somebody might say, look, I want the trust money that you're going to inherit. I want the money that you're going to inherit that's non-IRA. I need that to go into a trust for the benefit of you because you're not capable of managing those resources. There's something going on. You could have some cognitive issues. You could have some mental health issues. You could have some substance abuse issues. There are real reasons why you shouldn't get $1 million in cash. And giving you the IRA is more challenging because I have to kind of wash the money through a trust, and it's multi-leveled planning, whereas it's much easier to say, look, I'm going to put this house in a trust, and if something happens to me, you can have the liquid cash, and then the liquid cash can be used to take care of you in some type of further trust arrangement where the IRA is not very workable. Now, you may not care. You might say, look, I don't really care about that. I just want to make sure that the people who get the money get it the way they should get it. And so somebody gets less, somebody gets more, but there's a reason for that. There's a whole another set of conversations about that, but it's not just everything just goes 50-50 because it's not 50-50. They're different assets.
Yeah,
there's different implications for inheriting them.
And it's not hard to differentiate them. It's not complicated, but you have to understand them. And we see this in divorces as well too. Like there'll be because people will be like, yeah, we figured this out. So yeah, my ex is gonna, or my soon-to-be ex is offering me like. She gets the house and she's going to give me, her 401k, and you're like, well, that's different. They're two different numbers. They're two different values, and again, you may agree with that, and but you have to understand the differences between the two.
Yeah. Well, and what comes up too is people will come into these situations with a certain understanding, and they'll say, well, this is what we think. How everything is set up, right? So we've, like the last couple of weeks, we've had somebody come in who said, my parents' estate plan is set up in such a way where this scenario right here, somebody did get a house, okay, and then somebody did get a percentage of something else, right? And so we talk about IRAs, right? Classic example. What does Uncle Sam make you do every year once you turn 72? Take some money out of the IRA. What are you going to do with it? Well, if you're spending it, that potentially you're in a position where that IRA is a wasting asset. So when you set your estate plan up, you thought everything was calibrated and that it was equal. so that you're getting $1 million house and you're getting $1 million IRA. Well, 10 years into this, if you're taking out 40 grand a year, depending on how the market's performed, your $1 million IRA could be $400,000, could be $600,000. And on top of that, you go back to these tax issues again, and you could be leaving somebody a $1.2 million piece of real estate, and somebody gets a $400,000 IRA, and you thought it was equal.
Yeah, and so that's when, you know, oftentimes you'll see that when people kind of try and do this on their own, you know, when they say, okay, yeah, we're gonna figure this out, we're gonna do it on our own, and we're not gonna get any real professional guidance on this.
No, we're gonna wing it.
Yeah, and they don't really understand, or they don't have kind of the conceptual kind of foresight to be able to understand, like, look, this asset, I don't know what the market's going to give me. I don't know what the real estate market's going to give me either. So at the end of the day, you know, the usually, like when you were talking about the default, the default is if you want everybody to get everything equal, then you need to split everything equally, right? You need to split everything equal, but then what throws the monkey wrench in there is the real estate, right? Real estate becomes like that hard asset becomes the thing where, like, okay, Mom's got this $1 million house that she lives in Cape Cod. That's and everybody's going to split that equally, but are we going to, you know, does somebody need the money more than others?
Well, let's take a quick break and come back and talk about that, because that's an important issue in terms of real estate and in terms of liquidity and talking about who's going to get what. So let's take a quick break. I'll let you take us out because that's your thing.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
that's what I do. All right, so Tom, I'm just talking to you right now. I got to go. I got to go for a little bit, and then we're going to come back. Jay's going to come with me. We're all going to be back in here together in, like, what is it, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever they do. But don't, and everybody out there listening right now, don't you go away.
Stay tuned.
You stay right there.
Don't change that channel.
Yeah, don't change it. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money Law on MyFM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, man for Financial. Tom on the loop, on the bag, getting us through it all today. We're talking about dicing up your estate, if you will, in the right way, or in a way that you believe or understand is equal.
Well, you were saying,
but
like,
it might not.
What have you? What's been happening? What have you seen lately? What's kind of been on the news?
Well, you mentioned a minute ago. It's always real estate, and it's this real estate IRA retirement account, you know, conundrum, right? Because they tend to be the biggest assets that people own. One of them is very easy to plan with, one of them not so much, right? And so what we're talking about is if you're trying to set up your estate plan in such a way that it's kind of calibrated so that everybody's taking equally, you need to remember that these assets get treated differently from a tax perspective, and where you think everything is equal, you may not be leaving everything equally. And then before the break, you were talking about, you know, when you have real estate where somebody's interested in the real estate.
Yeah.
And then you got to start thinking through, okay, you know, it's always like a lake house, beach house, something like that. Well, if somebody wants the beach house, A, can they afford the beach house? That's the first thing. And then B, if they can't afford it, is there going to be enough liquidity in the estate that allows them to afford it?
Yeah,
right? That's the big question.
Right. I mean, and set aside the cost of just maintaining the house. Let's assume the house is paid for, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So there's your real estate taxes. There's all the upkeep that you need to, that, you know, cost of owning property. But it's like that. It's even the, you know, so if there's 4 children, you say, right, and let's say one of them lives there, then
right.
that even makes even more complicated. Right?
Yeah, that makes it more complicated.
But if let's say you have 4 children and everybody wants to, they love the vacation home, like they've been going there for years. It's like their place. But at some point, there's, you know, some people are going to use it more than others. Some people may not have the capability to kick in, like if the real estate taxes are you know, $10,000 a year, they may not be able to afford it, right? So then it becomes like this, well, how is everybody going to, if I want things to be equal, how do I make all this equal?
Well, how do I give everybody an equal seat at the table, right? Because to your point, right, someone's going to say, I really want the Cape House. I live here, right? This is my home, and I don't want to get kicked out.
Yeah.
You guys, if you don't have any interest in this, I'd like it, but I can't afford it.
I can't buy you out.
I can't buy you guys out.
I don't have $750,000.
No, and the Cape House was the biggest asset. There wasn't a lot of other liquid assets, right? The Cape House was the asset, right? So I either don't have the resources to buy you guys out, and then everybody usually goes, well, I'm not just turning it over. Most people will say, well, I'm just not flipping you my interest in the property. If you can buy me out, great, but I'm not just giving it to you.
Yeah,
right?
and so what happens is you retain interest in the property, and you say, okay, I'll pay, you know, my portion of the cost of the upkeep
Yeah.
costs, right? And then, you know, for as long as you live there, and we've seen that we've had this happen, this exact example, where as long as we'll be okay, we agree that you're going to live there, we're going to still use it and come
Yep.
on vacation, like that's not going to change. And but like you said, I'm not going to give up my interest in the property because it's part of my estate. It's part of my assets.
Right.
It's part of and maybe I won't realize I won't get to I won't get the benefit of the 250,000 whatever my
No, but
piece
if,
of it.
if it's 200 grand, it's real money, and you say, so look, I got kids to put through college. I got other things I'm trying to do.
That's
This
right.
is mom and dad's estate. They wanted us to benefit equally. And
Yeah.
this is a situation that, unfortunately, I get it that you don't have the ability to take out a $600,000 mortgage. So how do we?
And,
how do
and often, right, or I live on the other side of the country. I love you. You're my brother, but this doesn't help me.
Right.
This doesn't help me. And right now, I need help. Like
Yeah.
I could use, because I have two kids that are in college at the same time. I could definitely use
Yeah,
the
this
money.
money make a huge difference in my
as
life.
opposed to the convenience of you staying in your house because. Technically, it's fine. This is where it gets dicey, right? This is where you can, things can get like
Well,
uncomfortable.
I'll tell you the first words you're going to hear if you're the one living in the house. The first thing you're going to hear is, "I can't believe you haven't prepared for this." Like you knew mom and dad weren't going to live forever,
Yeah.
and you've been living here. This is what happens, right? And then the siblings start to look at you and they go, "Look, you've been living here rent free for 20 years.
Right.
You've never been able to put aside a little bit of a nest egg.
Right.
That no, you're not going to be in this house, but you're going to be somewhere, condo, apartment. Like you need to go." Like
Yeah.
I hate to say it this way, but we'll give you some time to, I mean, you're grieving, we're grieving. I get this,
Yeah.
but at some point, it's go time. You've had a chance, and mom and dad didn't have, because this whole conversation started with assets that they can have. There are no other assets. This is the asset,
Yeah.
right? And they didn't deed it to you. They didn't give it to you. They didn't put it on this glide path so that you're the only one that inherits it. They didn't put it in a trust for your life that benefits all of us down the road.
Right.
Like this is it. You're at the table with all of us, and what do you want to do?
Yeah, so essentially, I know what you want to do. You want to keep the house,
Yeah.
and you want things to go on business
You want
as
me
usual.
to turn my back and walk away and
Business
say,
as-
sure, you can
Oh, and
keep
you
it.
also want me to pay my 25% of the real estate tax and the cost, and
Yeah.
you want me to kick in when the boiler breaks. You want that too,
Yeah,
right?
I know you're going to be here and you're going to keep an eye on everything, and that's real convenient
Yeah.
for the eye keeper, but doesn't help me. I live in Oregon. I'm never coming back here.
Or
for
even,
this.
or even the I'll take care of all the costs. I'll cover all the costs. I'll get the maintenance and
Sure.
everything. Even the real estate tax. Even like I'll pay everything.
Yeah,
while I'm
$1,000 a month. I'll cover everything.
And so here's like that another kind of like option in these stories is, let's say that all the siblings are okay, right? They're financially they're okay. They don't necessarily need the money. It would be nice, right? It would be great if I got a $200,000 check, but it's not a game changer. It's not a glide path changer, right? So, and they love their brother and like, all right, you know what? Fine, you can live there. You work out something where it's not unreasonable. Like, all right,
Right.
you cover all the costs.
Sure.
You pay the reals. You pay that, and you live there. And I get it, right? And this is what happened. We have an example of this, but then it's like, this was the issue. The
But
issue
they're all going to continue to own the property.
well, everybody continues to
okay.
own the
All right,
property.
go ahead, yeah.
But the issue is one of the siblings, and maybe not even the person that lives there, but one of the siblings lives close and is like, oh yeah, we've been going there for 30 years. This is our vacation home. My kids go there. My kids love it. Why are you going to take that? You're not going to take that away from my kids. So this is when you get into that next generation. This is the guidance that I usually give my clients. Like, look, you may, with your siblings, your current, that may be fine. Leave it as is.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. Once that decision, like once the person who lives there can no longer live there, something
niece, nephew, cousins, they don't care.
or the next, like that next generation where there's like 17 different, and oh yeah, but remember we had that family unit. No, at that point, that property needs to be sold.
Yeah,
it needs,
I agree.
It needs to be sold, and maybe like one of those people can afford it. And they want to keep it, but then and if everybody agrees to that, and they're going to buy it at fair market value and buy everybody out, awesome. But if not, sell the property. Don't have it where my kids are going to have it for these 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Then
that never works. That never works.
it
at the
never
end of the
works.
day, you hear this over and over again. You want to buy it, buy it. right?
Yeah.
This is one of those things that, when we talked, and again, we started the show talking about what glide path are you putting on your specific assets. If this is what mom and dad wanted, if they wanted somebody to get the house, they need to make those arrangements in the beginning.
And they can.
They
right?
could have done
and
that. That's
it's
right.
easy to do.
And if they wanted somebody to at least have the use of the house, they could have put that together
Yep.
in the beginning, and everybody would know what the rules are, and it would be nice and clear, right? If you don't do
You
that,
may not like it, but
No.
but again, mom and dad. We said this before. Mom and dad, they're like, all right, here's how it's going down. You know, Jeff's going to live in the house. He's going to live in the house for as long as he can. That's the way it is, and he'll cover the cost. They figured all this out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
oh, by the way, as far when he retires or whatever, he's going to move, and then we'll sell the house and get the.
Well, you can. We've done this for clients. You can put a window on it.
Yeah.
You can say, look, he gets to live there for 2 years after our death, and then at the end of 2 years, it's go time, right?
Yeah.
He's either buying everybody out at the fair market value, or he's getting out. House is getting sold. Everybody's getting their
What
money.
document would I find all that information? What document might I find?
Oh, I
that in?
trust you would find that in your trust document.
I mean, I trust you're going to tell me the truth.
I
I mean,
trust me on that.
I can.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's where we
everybody-
build that. That's
yeah.
where we build that, and we can name it whatever you want to name it. I mean,
Yeah.
this is basically, we tell people, this is an operating agreement for the vacation house, if that's what you're doing, right?
Yep.
And it doesn't even have to be a vacation house. It's mom's primary residence, and the son or the daughter move in, and they're taking care of mom, and so mom or dad, they need to decide what glide path that property is going on.
Yep.
And if the answer is, look, I'm not leaving you any of my IRA because I left my IRA to your siblings,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're getting a house, that's perfectly fine. That works. That
And it may not be
absolutely works.
equal. It may not be an equal distribution, right? It may, just like we said, if like you have 3 other siblings and each of them get $200,000 in IRA, that's different than the $1 million house.
That's right.
It's a much different. And as long as everybody knows, that's different. Like that's not equal.
That's a great point. And some people don't care.
Yeah.
Some people will say, you know what, that's fine. I get it. I'm not treating all the kids equally. I've never treated them all equally. I've treated them all to each and of whatever they may have needed
Whatever
over
was
the course
required,
of their
yeah.
lifetime. I did all the right. And some people like the other. Some people are complete opposite. Some people say, look, to the penny,
Yeah.
it needs to be equal. So you have to figure out in your own mind how you are operating, because if you have life insurance, it may make sense for that life insurance to go to a particular person. If you have retirement monies, it may make sense for those retirement monies to not be split up a third, or whatever the number is. It might go to somebody. So
Yeah.
you got to figure out. Now, yes, in many cases, that does all get put on the table, and you split it up the way it evenly, if that's what's going to happen, but not always.
No. It's funny. I'm laughing because I'm going back into my life insurance days, right? Because if there was a life insurance guy in here right now, he would be like, "Oh, you have a problem? Allow me to solve this for you." Yep.
Let me solve this
I'm
problem.
sorry. Let me just
solve this
grab
problem.
my hammer and
Yep.
this
Where's
is
the nail?
This is my life insurance hammer,
Yep.
and I will beat this thing in, because life insurance will solve all. And so, how can life insurance solve? How would the life insurance? How would the great Mike D'Anzaris come and solve this problem right now? He'd be like, "Oh, this is easy. So you want to leave the house to the person who's living in the house, right? You want to
can't
leave
afford it.
You want
Who
to
can't
leave
afford
it to your son, and you want to make sure that everyone is made whole. How do I do that? Because at your passing, in a second to die life insurance policy,
yes.
right?
Yep.
At your passing, the life insurance, these named beneficiaries will be, sibling B, C, and D, right?
Yep.
And then, granted, who knows what the value of the house? There may be a little bit, but at least there would be some
They'll be
liquidity.
close. They'll be close. They're
Yep.
liquidity.
They'll
Well,
be-
look, I was at Fidelity for a long time, and when I was at Fidelity, liquidity-wise, this would come up in conversation after conversation after conversation with the insurance guys,
Yeah.
and they were talking big numbers. And at the time, it was always around estate taxes and things like that. And we have said to people, like, one of the things that when I started to be on my own from a practice perspective was the liquidity issues in a lot of cases are not big, gigantic liquidity issues like that involve millions of dollars.
Sure.
It's liquidity issues around either buying somebody out or paying a property tax bill.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Those are the things. Because, we've talked about this on the show. I think the stat is that most people don't have the ability to write a check for $400 to cover an unforeseen emergency. So, okay, well, we're here in Massachusetts and a lot of the cities and towns around outside Boston, your property tax bill could be $12 grand. And so, do you have not $400?
Yeah.
Do you have $4 grand?
Yeah,
Do you have $3,800
you have
to write an insurance bill?
$30,000, yeah.
On top of that, you're going to write an insurance policy because once the insurance company finds out that there's no one living in the house, you got to come up with a different policy payment, and it's a higher premium.
Sure.
And if it's an ongoing, if somebody's going to reverse mortgage, or if they're going to mortgage, those payments have to get made. I mean, stuff gets weird really fast, and somebody's got to come up with all this money up front.
And that's why the life insurance
And
guy,
the life insurance
he comes
guy
in
solves
and like
that
solves
problem.
the right and the
Rides
and,
in on his
and the
white
good
horse.
and the right and the good ones. They're like, listen, all this money that you're going to spend on this insurance, this is all money that's well spent, because it is going to put everybody's mind at ease. And everybody, if the kids are in the meeting, they're like, why don't you do that, Dad? Why don't you buy that $10,000 a year life insurance policy and solve all our problems? One reason is Dad doesn't want to spend 10 grand a year on life insurance.
10 G's, yeah.
But in actual fairness, though, to the life insurance industry, that does create a very easy and like quick and outside of probate solution to that problem, and it absolutely does work.
You're going to mail the insurance company a form, and they're going to mail you a form in the form of a check with a bunch of big numbers on it. And that's going to solve this problem to some degree.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is all this is done long before it actually happens, right?
Correct.
Because first of all, you have to qualify, you have to be physically capable to get life insurance, right? So when mom and dad do this, and when they're sitting down with everybody, say, here, just so you know, here's how this is going to go down, and they're like, okay, Jeff's going to live in the house, and he's going to get the house, and we have this life insurance policy. See that this really nice man who just happened to be, he's in the kitchen right now. Here's Mikey
The guy
D,
who just climbed into that Audi A11.
Mikey D's like, I got you, yeah, go Jets, right? So he's we have this life insurance policy, so everybody will get paid out of that, and that's and then mom and dad say, that's the way we're doing it, right? And if you don't like it, now if it's a vacation home, there may be some caveats. I mean, like, okay, part of this deal is that you get to come here on vacation still. You still get.
Well, you'd have to build all that around it. But to your point, the idea is that you've got an asset on a separate path, right?
Yeah.
That life insurance is designed to do something very specific. It's going somewhere for a particular reason. It's not IRA money. It's not annuity money. It's not bank account money. It's not real estate. It's an insurance policy designed to address a certain aspect of your estate plan, and that may be going to people differently than just everybody gets everything equally.
It's no different than a business agreement where you have a buyout
agreement. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. When in these buy-sell agreements, if I'm a business owner, if Jay and I are in business together and I pass away, Jay doesn't want to have to do business with my estate. Jay doesn't. We have a 50% interest. He has to. He doesn't want to have to deal with with anything that anything other than me. He doesn't want to deal with my estate, my wife, my children, or whatever.
And your people don't want to deal with me.
Exactly.
They're like, look, I want a check, and he wants a business. How do we do it?
Yeah, and so there's an insurance policy that's built into that, and so when and it's based on the general valuation of the business,
Right.
And so if I die, then Jay. Then the business or Jay is the beneficiary of that, and that enables him for the sole purpose, and and this is what he does, and this is part of the deal. He buys out my estate,
right? That's right.
He buys out my estate, and then he retains control of his business. He carries on, continues to do business as usual.
Now, down the road, things may change, right? You may get rid of a particular asset that you had something specifically built around in your estate plan. We're getting rid of the Cape House. We're not doing the Cape thing anymore. It doesn't work out. We're getting rid of the lake house. It doesn't work for us anymore. We're not going. So now you're gonna get rid of that asset, and then you're gonna be stuck with another asset that was designed to solve a problem that doesn't exist anymore. And then you're gonna make a decision, and you're gonna say, well, do we still want to keep that policy that we bought that was going to be designed to create some liquidity here? Or are we changing that owner, the beneficiary of that life insurance policy, so now it's everybody again? So there's a reason that having it still makes sense, but we just got to figure out whether or not.
I feel like Mike Dianzaris is here right now. I mean, I've said his name. I'm going to make him watch this show, because he'd be like, oh, all you need to do is one form.
Hold on.
Change your beneficiary.
You could probably
form.
get it online.
You could probably. No. That's not how the old guys do.
No.
He's bringing you that form.
Yeah.
He's bringing you that form. You're going to fill it out in front of him, and
make
then
an
he's going to take
appointment.
appointment at your house.
You're going to offer some coffee.
It's going to be at
maybe
your
some bun cake.
It's going to be at your
Yep,
house.
a couple of cookies on a plate.
He is showing up in his
Yep.
Audi Q7.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely right. So that's what happens. So the point is, when you put these assets on their own separate, particular glide path to solve a very specific problem, you need to understand the nuances, and a lot of it's tax driven. You need to understand a lot of the nuances as to what you're actually leaving to people in the form of either taxes, money, or a tax headache, or something less because of taxes. And then you also got to recognize that the reason that you put these things on their own separate glide path may change over time. And then when it changes, then you need to have another conversation either with your financial folks or with your legal folks or both of them to say, given this new set of circumstances, I had these original things set up, do they still work, or is it time to do something different? And it could be, and there could be another solution out there, because these solutions, the industry is constantly developing these solutions.
There's another solution.
There's always
There's
another
always
solution. It's
another-
usually another insurance policy.
There's
but that's-
another solution,
that's right.
and the insurance that usually can solve that.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Hats off today. A special shout out to our life insurance brethren out
We
there.
love them. We love them. We love them.
All right. So with no further ado, it's
No,
time
we're
to
good.
go.
No
All right.
further ado.
Tom, you're good. Jay's good.
Tom's
I'm
good. He took good
We're
notes.
good. Everybody have a great weekend.
Enjoy,
right?
please.
This is like the
is
preliminary
pre-
weekend.
pre-4th of
Getting
July.
ready
Get
4th
ready.
of July,
Get
last
ready.
weekend in June. All right,
Yep.
everybody have a great weekend. We'll see we're on a little break. We're on a little
Yeah,
hiatus.
hiatus here.
We're on
Yep.
a little
Yep.
hiatus. So we'll be back in a couple weeks. So if you need to go back and review stuff, you can always go back to
moneythelaw.net. Find us there.
You'll find us there. All right. Have a great weekend. We'll see everybody next time.
Talk soon.
Bye bye.